Hi there, how are you?
Hey, hey, hey. I'm doing all right, man. How you doing?
Good, good.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm already recording. We go ahead and get started if you like.
Sure, sure. And Daryl, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
Andrew
sir.
here.
All right, Andrew. It's good meeting you. Good
You too.
seeing you. All right.
Likewise.
So the floor is yours. So you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do.
My name is Andrew Keaveney. I'm a teacher with the Art of Living Foundation. And so I teach breathwork and really practical tools that people can use for their own mental health, resilience training, almost like strength training for the mind, body, and spirit. I like to think about it. I also document some of these service project applications of these programs in areas like prisons, schools, and veterans communities.
Oh, wow. I understand that you did some Eastern philosophy. Is that right?
That's how I got
So
started. Yeah.
So, so what first drew you to that? Well, how did that get up and running? How did that happen?
Part of me doesn't know. Sometimes it feels like our life is happening, right? But I recall reading this monk that I was really curious about, and he was writing about this experience of ease and peace that was coming with contemplative prayer in the Christian tradition. And then
Hmm.
he was having these dialogues with different monks from other traditions. So I started
Hmm.
following that thread and realized there's this abundance of Eastern philosophy about the inner journey, about meditation, about a quiet, peaceful, dynamic mind. And so I started on that journey myself and never stopped.
Wow. And how did you like? What about the meditation? What got you into that? How'd that start?
That was also pretty funny, Daryl, because I literally stumbled into it.
Hmm.
I'm 16 in Memphis, Tennessee, not knowing a single person that meditates, but
Sure.
wanting to try it out. And so
Hmm.
read something about it in a book and just started sitting and got a glimpse of something different, something special, like a new dimension of experience, of existence. And then just kept following that. And that took me to India and the Art of Living, who I now teach with. It was like, oh, there are techniques that get you into the space. You don't have to just
Hmm.
try and keep forcing it, but concrete practices can really be the breakthrough to break through into that space of more centered but awake mindset.
How did you enjoy India when you was there?
India is fascinating. Have you been before?
No, that's why I'm asking because it's like going out of the country. I've never been to any country outside of the US. So
Okay.
this is gonna be an interesting one for me.
India is wonderful and it's such a varied country. I tell
Hmm.
people it's like a continent. We think of Europe as a continent with lots of different countries and cultures and languages. India is exactly the same. And so, you go from one state to another, they're speaking a
Hmm.
different language, they have a different alphabet, things like that. I studied up a little before I went, learned how to read Devanagari, the what I thought was the main alphabet. And then I arrived at the train station, everything was in another language.
Oh wow.
So it's a
All
very
right.
diverse country and also like a lot of fun, very warm, rich, loving people. And at the same time, there's this like abundance of spiritual heritage that they've kept intact over generations. That's what really appealed to me. Okay, here we have this meditation tradition that's unbroken, that's been
Hmm.
passed down for hundreds, thousands of years, that people really know what they're doing. They have a technique around it. So I found that fascinating and just so rewarding. So even though,
Hmm.
there's over a billion people, that can feel very crowded and there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
color and music and all that, amidst it, I was at this ashram where you find this stillness and this centeredness of your own being. And that was unique and wonderful and worth traveling the globe for, I found.
Interesting. So how long did you spend time in India?
About 4 years between 2007 and 2012.
And that's all you did was just um study the what was it you did again in India?
So I
I
was
forgot that
studying,
fast.
no, you're good, you're good. I
I did,
was
I forgot.
I was learning meditation, doing a lot of
Meditation.
practice. I did my
Mhm.
teacher training to teach meditation and breath work. And then I was also studying Sanskrit, the ancient language of India, its philosophy, its science of consciousness. And then I was volunteering, just helping out during the
Mhm.
days. And then my teacher's Gurudev, he's very dynamic. So at one point, he said, "Oh, why don't you guys go and travel in the villages and talk with people, lead some public programs, do some community gatherings with people." So that was another
Yeah.
really special part of the experience is to go to these rural, remote villages, sing with people, kind of reflect back and share some of this ancient knowledge, which ironically has gotten forgotten in some parts of India. So it
Right.
was a mix of being in the ashram and meditating and learning about that, researching that tradition, and then also
Mhm.
engaging with the community in small villages and sometimes in the cities.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So while in India, so you're there, you're studying, you're doing everything. So how did that experience like change the way you view mental health?
I think one big shift, it was over lunch. And
Mhm.
I'm having lunch by myself that day and reflecting and realizing everything around me was really good. I was in a
Yeah.
peaceful place,
Yeah.
surrounded by nice people. I had this lovely South Indian lunch in front of me. And I noticed that my mind was agitated and disturbed.
Yeah.
And we hear about this, but that's the moment it really clicked for me. That peace of mind comes from the inside and not the
Mhm.
outside. And I thought, okay, I can be surrounded by a very positive, peaceful atmosphere, still on some level, not quite settled, not fully content. I've got to deal with what's up here.
Correct.
And then also realizing, okay, what's up here is on one level informed by what's around me. On the other level, we follow that thread and we see how much of our mind is filled with memories. And sometimes they're memories that could be unpleasant or we haven't fully processed. Now people talk in terms of varying degrees of trauma, perhaps.
Mhm.
And it was like, okay, so how do we sift through? How do we deal with this mind stuff?
Well,
And that really kind of began the adventure in earnest of, okay, let me research and do these practices that really bring a revolution, I think, in how we approach the mind. Because in my growing up, my education, it was never taught. If you
right.
get angry, here's what you do, right? I mean, maybe you can
Mhm.
relate,
Correct. Oh, of course.
right?
Of
If
course.
you're
Yeah.
sad, here's what you do, especially as a man. Like we don't talk
Hmm.
about, men also get sad, men also get angry. What do you do with that? Beyond, like, don't cry, don't yell. And so it was revolutionary to say, okay, here's a practice, a technique that anyone can do to come back to peace in the moment, but also gradually refine the mind, refine the consciousness so that all these layers of built up mental stuff get diminished and we're able to be more free, more light, more ever
Absolutely.
present.
Yeah. And in those times, men was also taught to, suppress things.
Yeah.
So you go and deal with that. Like when you said, don't cry and you
Be a
deal with
man.
that. So be a man.
Yeah.
You suppress that. You
Yep.
don't tell nobody what's going on in your life. You
Right.
don't tell anything. You just, keep it in and go about your business.
And even when
And
people ask what you say, oh, I'm fine.
yep. And say, hey, I'm okay. Or
Yeah.
hey, I'm good. And you still do it with a smile, even though you're not okay.
Yeah.
Right? That's how that's how it usually works, right? So that's why things change these days.
Exactly.
You gotta make a change.
Yep. Completely agree.
So breath work. Yeah, for sure. for sure. Breath work. What is breath work?
Breathwork was also revolutionary and paradigm shifting for me personally, because
Mhm.
even once I'd encountered meditation in books, it felt like I was trying to force my mind into a more peaceful state. And if you've
Mhm.
ever done that, saying calm down doesn't really work.
No.
Just like saying don't be angry, stop being so angry doesn't really fully get us there. So breathwork I found was the connecting link. The breath is connected to the mind and the body. The mind we can't, it's not tangible. We can't
Right.
fully like just change the mind by thinking differently right away.
Mhm.
But the breath you can work with. You can take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. And in more refined evidence-based practices, we start to work with the rhythms of the breath, which are connected to the emotions. And then it just brings this huge catharsis and almost this healing effect that gives a vehicle to handle the emotions without trying and making effort at the level of the mind, which can feel a bit futile at times. And it's not to say that,
Sure.
cognitive based therapy doesn't work at all. I mean, my mom was a psychologist, that was her training.
Hmm.
But it also, like, to me, it always felt like it had its limits, that I was getting to some stuff. But this was just like excavating and clearing out so much without also having to like sift through the garbage. You're not
Right.
saying, oh, right,
Right.
like
Yep.
there's this memory or this thing. No, you're just like breathing it out, getting clear, feeling really good. And that was wonderful to me.
For sure. So, what exactly happens in our bodies when we intentionally slow our breathing?
So that's the fascinating part, because I've noticed a lot of people, we kind of get stuck in go, go, go mode, right?
Yeah.
And, people identify that with the sympathetic nervous system and like fight or flight. Or what happens with the breathing is it helps to activate the other mode of rest and restore, parasympathetic. And with that, there's great stuff around how that affects your heart rate variability, how that helps to lower chronic stress, which we can see in a cortisol drop over time.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating. That's the other thing I love about breath work, which you reminded me to mention, is that it gives a physiological response. So
Right.
we're not trying to think, the body's actually experiencing relief at the physiological level, at the chemical level. So it's fascinating. Another study I loved showed that the cognitive gray matter in the mind
Yeah.
actually
Mhm.
expanded with sustained practice of this. Another
Wow.
one on impulse control. And this was really useful when we were working with people overcoming opioid addiction, is it helps to inhibit some of that impulsiveness. What one guy told me is before sky breath, I had no choice, he felt like. And he said
Mhm.
it's given him that pause. He said, where I can decide whether an action is going to help me or hurt me. And I didn't have that pause before. I didn't have that moment. So there's some of the things happening in the mind and
Yeah.
the physiology that's fascinating.
Wow. Wow. So when it comes to the anxiety and or panic, does breath work help in that way?
Definitely. And it's a great question you asked. I mean, how many of us are struggling with anxiety these days?
Yeah.
It's through the roof, right? It's
Hmm.
something that we didn't hear as much about 30, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
even before, we were around.
Yeah.
But now just so many people, you head into a session and so many people say, I'm struggling with anxiety. I want to feel less anxious. I also see not just corporate group, but also when I teach at the retreat center, a lot of mothers come and say, this is the first time I've taken time for myself in 15 years, in 10 years. And there's just so much anxiety.
Yeah.
What's cool is that it also really decreases anxiety. There was a great
Hmm.
study that showed its effect not just on generalized anxiety disorder, but also acute. And even people that had tried medication and it hadn't worked for them, it works for some people,
Hmm.
but it hadn't worked for them. That was the control group for the study.
Yeah.
Even
Hmm.
in that group, there was an increased percentage that went into remission and lowered their anxiety levels.
You said something that I really just want your opinion on. You said that there's people that will come to your retreat and they'll say, "Oh man, this is the first time that I've actually did self-care in about 15 years." So, why do you think that is? Apart from anxiety, panicky, stuff like that, why do you think people really don't, take it seriously to actually do self-care? Why do you believe that in that term?
It's a good question. I mean, why don't we? I
Yeah.
also wonder, right?
Yeah.
What I see sometimes is it's a bit countercultural still. There's more
Yeah.
and more adoption and embracing, let's have a conversation. It's more socially
Mhm.
acceptable to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And also, people are seeing that, okay, there are ways, practices that help with that. So that's a good part. On
Yeah.
the other side, I think there is still some social stigma that we see where maybe it's unfamiliar or people haven't encountered before. So there's a little
Mhm.
hesitation still. But I'm glad to see that's getting less and more people are showing up after 15 years to give
I
it a
agree.
shot and see what happens.
Yeah. And I feel like if people actually did take the time to actually, take care of themselves, look after themselves, especially people that has like a bigger responsibility of, kids or,
Exactly.
juggling work and all of that, that's where most people actually close in. They don't, actually take the time to take care of themselves. It'll
Yep.
be that basic routine. Get up, you know, get yourself ready for work, get the kids up, get them ready for school, whatever, or whatever the case may be. Take them to school, or they'll take the bus or whatever, something of that sort. And then you go to work. And then after that, it's that same flipper routine again. This stuff is just an opposite. You probably get the kids from school, or they come home, and then you come home from work, and then you eat, and then, you know, the kids eat, whatever, and then they get ready for bed, and boom, you get ready for bed. No time for yourself. And
Right?
that can always be a concerning issue with a lot of people these days. And this is still happening these days. But like you said, it's getting less and less
Yeah.
because they're actually starting to learn and see, yeah, I actually do need to start taking time for myself. I need to actually start, doing some meditation or, yoga or doing and there's people that actually do breath work too. And and people are actually starting to take that seriously because I had to start doing that myself. I have a 5-year-old. And
Okay.
yeah, I have a 5-year-old. And most of the time, I really don't have time for myself.
Yep.
So most of the time, I would work, work, and work, come home, eat, and then, rather if I'm doing this or the podcast or, I have to do something else, other projects comes in, I do that. And then I go into the routine all over again. And I just start the next day, do it again. And I do it all the way up to Friday. And then that's when I get my 5-year-old. Then I go into dad mode.
Yep.
So that's when I spend the weekend with her. And then after that, boom, I send her home on Tuesday and I start that routine all over again.
Yep.
And that's when I had to learn that I got to get some time. I got to get some time in for myself. So even if that
Absolutely.
means that I have to, yeah, even if I have to, you know, do one of those call off from works just to, you know, get myself reprogrammed and stuff like that. I had to do it here recently because of how overwhelmed I was feeling and the anxiety started kicking in. And I knew I was
Mm,
like, okay, I'm going to have
mm-hmm,
to take this day off and just
mm-hmm.
kind of reprogram my brain. And that seemed to do the trick.
Yep.
But the whole gist and point is A, there's nothing ever wrong with, taking time for yourself, even if it's not to do nothing, or even if it's just to read a book, even if it's to do meditation, even if it's to do yoga, even if it's to do, anything that would help reprogram your mind to, feel a little bit more better about yourself to get up and move on to the next day. And that's what most people are starting to see. And I'm happy that it's happening. I had to do it for myself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And baking that into our routine makes such a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise we're chasing, doing. And it's a little like you spend the whole night making your bed and you never lie down and go to sleep. You never rest.
Yep, that's true.
And so just like, we take a shower, we brush our teeth.
Hmm.
I find it's a good metaphor for people like, oh, like that. We also do something to wash our minds. It's
There you
brainwashing in a
go.
good way. We got to clean
There
our
you go.
minds too.
Yes.
So
I
just
love
like
that.
5, 10 minutes, build it in your routine. And most people find it gives them more energy. Even if you have to get
Yes.
up 10 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier, like it's worth it for that
Hmm.
extra bump of energy.
Hmm.
I was a little the opposite with sleep. I started doing this pre-sleep breathing routine, and I'd be tired. I would just want to go to sleep. But then I would spend that 5, 10 minutes doing the breathing and like the awareness. And I started noticing like my stats were just higher regularly every day I did it. So I would wake up in the morning and would say, oh, like your whatever your recovery score is much higher today. Like your heart rate variability is improved. And so I said, okay, even though I'm tired, it's worth it. Just make that little bit of time
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
feel better, you work better, you function better. It's across the board.
Yep. And that's exactly why they say, you probably haven't heard it before, but I've seen it before. They say, like, if you get up and make your bed, you've already started your day,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
and that's how most of our days would begin. You get up and make your bed. So if you
Right.
do that, you are already on your way to, positive in a positive direction. You're just ready to go. And that's how most people, you know, get through their day.
And it's like making
And
your bed for your mind.
yep, that's a good one. I like that. That's absolutely true. That's
That
absolutely
was
true.
half you and half me. I think we can both run with that one.
Man, yes. Yes. Yes, I could definitely get with that one because yeah, because I know most people these days, like some people would, some people wouldn't, but the depression, anxiety gets so bad. There are some
Mm,
people, and I have these days too, where I just don't get up and make my bed at all, but
mm.
I still go about the day.
Yep.
And that's just because we're so overloaded with things in our minds that we're not taking that 20 seconds, 30, maybe a minute to make the bed, making sure that, we're set on the right mind frame.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens. It
It
happens like
does.
that.
It
So
does.
that's wow. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. That now they give me a different perspective on, you know, starting off that day doing that, making your bed and you just, yeah, oh yeah, that's good. I like that. I
Making
like
your
that.
bed and clearing your mind.
Yes, I love it. Man, I love it. I love it. So, when we talk about meditation,
Mm.
so many people think that meditation means like emptying your mind. Could that also be true?
It can be true, but not necessary.
Sure,
That's the beauty of it.
sure.
And that can frustrate a lot of people because, they listen to music, they might feel relaxed, they turn the music off, and, they're charging their phone, it's on silent. no distractions, no objects
Mhm.
consuming our attention, what happens? The mind can go a little haywire, can go busy. So people freak out and think, okay, I tried to meditate. It didn't work. Meditation must just be wrong for me. And I say, no, no. When we sit with ourselves, at first it can feel like a lot because, like you said earlier, so much can be suppressed, right? That we haven't dealt with, either for social reasons or stress. So it's going to come out. And it's better it comes out this way than, getting stressed or anxious or to a chronic level where we start to affect our health. They say that stress, chronic stress, is an aggravating or exacerbating factor in like a majority of illnesses. I saw that stat somewhere.
Yeah. Mm.
But when you have a technique, like a proper technique, a little guidance, you learn to sit with your thoughts, whatever they are. And you realize, okay, everything that's happening up here is okay. If it's empty and quiet one day, that's great. If there's a little smoke, I like to think about like, the smoke coming up. That's also okay once in a while. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means it's part of the process. But having a bit of guidance, whether through an app or learning it with a teacher, does make a world of difference at the beginning. Then you can,
Yeah.
set forth and you're fine on your own.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, in your opinion,
Mm.
what is the biggest misconception about meditation?
That's funny because you actually nailed it. That's one of them, that my mind should be empty and blissful.
Yep.
I
Hmm.
think the other one related is that meditation is hard. And at some level, again, when we sit, the mind feels busy. It can feel hard. But the irony of it is the opposite. Meditation, true meditation, is so natural to us.
Yeah. Mhm.
In those moments where we're so relaxed, when we let go fully and we're being in the moment, that's a
Mhm.
glimpse of meditation.
Yeah.
So I like to share with people when we're teaching that true meditation is nothing foreign. It's just accessing that state of your own being that is quiet, that is joyful, that is bliss, that is peace. And it's not
Yeah.
like you're trying to like catch something and bring it in. You're just tapping back into what you already have in your nature.
For sure. For sure.
So it's
So
not
how
really hard, even though it can feel that
that
way.
now, since you said that, now how can someone start meditating like if they never done it before?
That's the other good part is we're in a golden era, I think, of sorts in
Sure.
meditation. When I started in Memphis, there was nothing. I didn't know anyone that was meditating. I wanted to learn
Sure.
how, but there's nothing in the yellow pages. There's nothing at the church bulletin
You're
board
right.
didn't have
That's
anything.
right. You're right.
Public library didn't have anything.
No.
And so now we've come a long way. Like Art
Social
of
media.
Living has this great app called like it's
Yeah.
being renamed Bliss. So it's called Sattva with like all these guided meditations. You can just download it and start right away. Gurudev has like tons of meditations on YouTube. And also I found that, my experience, I tried for 6 years bouncing around like different meditation groups and books.
Yeah.
But when I sat with a teacher for a few days and like learned directly, it really transformed my practice. And now we have teachers, all over the world, all over the country. So those are the three ways, downloading a good app like Bliss, like Sattva, checking out like YouTube. There's some good guided meditations there. I could send you a link if you want to put in the notes.
Sure.
And then like, spending a weekend, taking a little me time, self-care time, whether it's online or in person, just spending a few hours learning with a teacher
Yeah.
is invaluable.
All right. That's fair enough. So when we talk about burnout and stress, why are so many people living in a constant state of stress?
Why are we, right? It's such a good question.
Right. Like every person in the world is.
It doesn't feel good, but we keep doing it.
Yeah.
It hurts our health,
Yeah.
but we keep doing
Hmm.
it. I think somewhere along the line, there may be a misconception that if I push harder, if I achieve more, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be content and I'll have made it. Like I'll get there. And it's funny because it's almost like, the idea of a mirage in the desert, that from a distance, it appears there's water, there's a mirage. But the
Mhm.
closer you get to it, it disappears because it was never real.
Right.
So I think that sense of achievement completes in that same thing for many people, where it's possible they have this sense, oh, I'm almost there. Let me just keep pushing. But those things that actually bring us happiness, spending time with family, taking
Yeah.
time to relax, like you were saying, sit down, do nothing. I put meditation in this category. These are the things that really actually strengthen our happiness. And sometimes we skip over those to
Yeah, we
escape
do.
to do more, right? To achieve.
Hmm.
So I think that's part of the tragedy of the current achievement model that we've set up. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
reversing
That's
that does a lot for us. Like you said, taking some time to do nothing, taking some time to be in nature, to be with ourselves, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day is a big step towards that solution.
since you said that, there's some it's like this is what I like to do. I haven't done it in a
Ah,
while, but I think the last time I did it was I think it was a couple of years ago.
let's do it. Tell me, tell me.
Um, yeah, I'm about to tell you. This is what like when you talked about, the taking time for yourself. So I think it was about a couple of years ago, maybe three.
Mm,
Me and my brother decided like I'm located in Indianapolis, Indiana.
okay.
So so there's this like nature park that's
Mm,
about 10 minutes from where I live, maybe roughly about 10, 15 minutes. And there's a nature park that sits right behind the museum art.
yeah,
And there's just a lot of people there that just actually go and just it's like a trail there. You just go walking and you know, you could bring the kids along just to, have them just run around and get themselves tired or whatever.
yeah,
It's a great time. So me and my brother went, it was in the fall and it was cool. The weather was just right. So we went down there and we actually just took everything in. It was the best experience. I've never been. That was actually my first time going. I've seen
yeah.
it a million times. Okay. Millions of times from when I
Driving
was
by,
a
right?
kid all the way up to now. Yes, just driving by. And we always made it to go. We gonna go down here.
Yep.
And we finally went. Oh, the greatest feeling in the fall. The weather was cool.
Yeah.
We had coffee in our hands, and it was just like this was the perfect time. The leaves was changing colors, it was changing to
Yeah.
orange. It was phenomenal. Now, you want to talk about something that did to your soul? That did something to my soul, and it did something to my brothers too.
Mm,
It was like, ooh, we got to do this again.
mm.
Man, I would not sit here and sugarcoat nothing. People can say, I don't care if people say, you know what, that's probably the boringest thing you can ever do. Good. Then I'm boring. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
I'm just gonna be boring. Okay.
Right?
That was incredible. I loved it. It was peaceful. And it was early in the morning too. I have to say about 9:30 in the morning. And
Yep.
we just went down there. It was actually, as a matter of fact, it was Labor Day. It was Labor
Okay.
Day a few years ago. And we just did it. And none of us didn't have to work. We just said, you know what? Let's just go down here and let's just see what we can do with this. And, whew,
Love it.
talk about a good time. We just walked the trail,
Just doing
enjoy
nothing. Yeah.
looking at just looking at the leaves and just walking and just seeing everything. And,
Mm,
they had like different exhibits. We just looked at them and just did nothing. It was
mm.
awesome. Awesome.
You've painted
I'm
such
gonna
a
do it again.
vivid portrait of it. It sounds amazing.
Yes, it is. It's amazing. As a matter of fact, I think beforehand, I think it was in the summer. I actually went down there with my daughter also. So we just went down there just to do the same thing. Except it was just a little hot. It was unbearable that time. I still had fun. We both still had fun. It was tremendous. But I ended up taking some pictures and stuff like that. So that was the one time we did it. But whew, when me and my brother went on that fall day on like well, it felt like fall, it's probably still summer, but it was just cool.
Yeah,
That was I could still just think about it right now, just seeing it. It just felt amazing. Like you want to talk about doing nothing. You want to do something for your soul, do that.
yeah,
Got a nature park somewhere, please just go. You will
yeah,
feel something in your soul.
yeah.
I
Turn
loved
the
it.
phones
It
off,
was
go
awesome.
out, just be in it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, you just off your phone, man. I don't even think we had our phones with us either. To come think about it, I don't think we had our phones because I don't even
Yeah,
remember carrying my phone.
yeah.
If I wanted to carry my phone, I probably would have took some pictures. As a matter of
Right,
fact,
right.
I just took pictures. That's all I did. I didn't do nothing. I took maybe a few pictures and the phone was gone. I
Yeah,
didn't touch it. I didn't do nothing else. Yeah. You want to talk about a good time. That was a good
yeah.
time, man. I loved it. I loved it.
And how often do we race past those moments for something else, right? And but when we look back, right, like those are the moments that are special. Those times when we
Mhm.
give ourselves time to breathe, to be at peace.
Yes. Yes. Just to not think about nothing. Just
Mm,
sitting right in front of you, man. Just like sitting looking at things that sits right in front of you. It's
yep,
the greatest feeling ever. You're not thinking about nothing. You are in your own world.
yep,
Just taking a few moments to not think about your stress, your anxieties, your depressions. You're not thinking about nothing. You're thinking about this beautiful park full of nature, full of trees, a trail, exhibits, all this stuff, water, little
yeah,
river going upstream. Man, you can't beat that. Look,
yep,
I may be in my 30s, man, but that don't beat a good time for anything. I don't care if I went out of town to like a theme park or just going out of town to look at the tourist things. Going
mm,
to the nature park is my best. It's just the best. And like, and even sometimes we had did this every year. I think from I think 2021.
mm,
No, 2020. From
mm.
2020, we'll go to Madison, Indiana.
Okay,
Madison, Indiana sits, I think it's on the Ohio River.
yeah,
And right next to that is Milton, Kentucky.
okay,
And we will go there. We went there every year. We went 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. And I think we also went 2024. We ain't been back since. But every year we went, that was our getaway space.
yep,
That was our getaway space. We wasn't trading nothing in to take the time to actually go out there to Madison, Indiana, just to look at the water and enjoy everything that just sits there. It is
yep.
so lovely. Whoo.
Mm,
I don't know what was the better one between the nature park and going to Madison, Indiana, just to look at the water. Oh my
yep.
gosh. And this long bridge. Oh, mm, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's so wonderful. You
Madison,
just
Indiana,
clear your
eh?
soul and your mind. Yeah, Madison,
Mhm.
Indiana. It's just I think it's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Indy,
Okay.
where I'm at. So it's not too far from. It's just about an hour,
Mm.
hour and a close to an hour and a half, somewhere close to two something. It took no time to get there though. It still took a while, but it just took no time. But that's just how enjoyable it is. So yeah.
And it's
Whew,
funny because
I
there's
love
this
it.
like parallel I find with the inward journey as well, where it's
Mm,
so available. You know, like you're saying, it's just 5, 10 minutes away. Getting in touch with
mhm.
ourselves is also like it's not that far, but it's just that choice to go there, right? To take that time to go and vacation for our mind, vacation for our
Yes.
soul.
Yes.
So it just brought up that funny parallel, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't know anything about it. My brother didn't. He even wanted to introduce it to me because he was
Mm,
doing some stuff with his job at the time, and they happened to go to Madison, Indiana. He didn't know nothing about it. And then when he saw Madison, Indiana, he was like, "Oh man, I got to take Daryl down here. This is phenomenal." And when he told me
nice.
about it, I was like, "Okay, let's go. We'll go. Like I'll be willing to do anything right now. Let's go."
That's a good
And when
brother.
we went down there, oh yeah, oh yeah, he's man. If you want to talk about inner peace and soul, that's my brother. He's
Yeah.
all about the peace. He's all about, you know, trying to recover for the soul. He's all about it,
Mm.
and he knows how to pick some good spots for some good, you know, soul making machines. Like, oh, he took me down there for the first time. I said, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to make a habit to come down here." And every summer from 2020 to 2024, that's where we went.
How
Phenomenal.
nice.
Yeah, it was wonderful. All right. So I understand that you did a film about breath work and opioid recovery. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what inspired you to do that project?
So it was actually in Ohio. I have a friend out there who teaches breath work, and in
Yeah.
her hometown, she was traveling back, and she saw that people she had gone to school with, a lot of friends, were struggling. And she even lost
Yeah.
people that she went to high school with. And so she said, "Hey, I've got this tool. I can teach this breath work. I know it helps people. There's some research behind it. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
make a difference
Yeah.
in my community back home." So she started going back on the weekends, 3 hours each way from Columbus, and leading these workshops and doing outreach in the local community, partnering with recovery institutions. And then she got a grant from Ohio State University to measure the results. And she saw it was really helping people. And so then she called me up. She said, "Andrew, we've got to do something. This is helping people. Let's get it out there. Let's share a bit of what's
Yeah.
happening here in Ashtabula."
Yeah.
So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." We went out in the dead of winter, a month before COVID started, and we
hmm
filmed and met these people who are transforming their lives by doing the recovery work with the breath. And it was
Yeah.
just such a special emphasis to meet people who've gone to rock bottom and who really
Yeah.
realize, okay, I need help. I need to make a change. I need to do something different. And then they do it. When they get a tool, they appreciate it so much. And so the stories that these people share just touch your heart so much. And I
hmm
cried so many times making it. I've when they show it, Jill will say, "Andrew, like everyone was crying watching it." So it's beautiful to see how the recovery journey can be supplemented, can be aided and accelerated with these natural tools that we have with us. And it's
hmm
very endearing, and it touches my heart and the people's heart of the people I've shown it to.
Yeah. That's that's a good
Because I think
project.
also in the recovery community, I've also
hmm
had relatives that have struggled, and sometimes it almost feels like we're trading one addiction for another. Where we're
Oh yeah.
addicted to a substance and then we're trying to get
Yeah.
off of it, and then they'll say like, "I don't want to be addicted to this to help me get out of my addiction." And so
hmm
that was one thing that people voiced they really appreciate was having a tool in their hands that was natural, that they were never dependent on, but that was still stabilizing their mood, keeping them from that space where active addiction became really problematic for them. So it was really encouraging.
For sure. For sure. So, can mindfulness complement traditional addiction treatments?
100%. I mean, in this case, it was sky breath meditation. So a type of breathing meditation that was, has been shown to be very effective with the impulse inhibition and then also positive affect. This was the other really
Yep.
interesting thing from some of the research is sometimes the meds that people will use will blunt their ability to feel at all. And so you get
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
I've had friends, who say, like, yes, I feel less depressed or less impulsive, but I also don't feel much at all anymore. I also don't feel
Hmm.
the highs and the joys. And that was the other revolutionary thing about breath work. One, it's natural. We're not getting those side effects, but also we're not blunting people's ability to feel. In fact, it's reducing some of the negative, stress and anxiety and coping, but it's also giving more joy, more happiness, more sense of contentment. And when you increase that, then there's less likeliness for someone to grab onto something that's going to give them a short-term thrill, but a long-term, hangover and even worse. Some of these people, like, it gets very dark.
Yeah, I think I lost you there for a hot second too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's no, you good. It could be me. Uh, yeah, it could be me. Yep.
I've also got this on a camera file, so I'll upload that and send it to you as well.
Oh, for sure. Let's see. Oh God, there we go. Okay.
Are
Oh
we
yeah, I
back?
did lose you for a second. Yeah, we good. We good. We good. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I like that. So, what have you learned from working with people in recovery? What have you learned?
I think one of the biggest lessons for me was appreciation of life. It's very
Hmm.
easy to be discontent. And I think when, we compare ourselves on social media or Instagram, and it's easy to say, oh, like, look how that looks nice. That's a nice lifestyle, whatever. And then you meet people who have, really gone through a really rough time and emerged stronger and clearer. It also gave me a much deeper appreciation of life and gratitude that,
Absolutely.
even just to be alive is such a gift. This one guy, Joey, he was telling me that at one point he was, hoping that it would be the last hit and that he would overdose because he couldn't take the pain anymore.
Oh man.
And then you hear something like that, and you're like, wow, to be alive is something to be grateful for, not just the accessories of life, a car or a house or whatever, but just
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
existence, being alive, like joy. There's so much there
Yeah.
that matters.
Wow. Yeah.
The other thing I learned was like discipline, a greater appreciation for that.
Yes. Yes.
These some of
Absolutely.
these people, like, they're like, okay, I'm doing this daily. Like, this has helped me. I am not letting go of this technique. I'm going to do this every day. They've been sober for like 4 years, 5 years. They're like, okay, this is my daily go-to. And then you really you get a newfound appreciation that, yeah, this is reliable. Like the breathing, it works. It really helps people.
So she said that. Let me ask this. So there are people that would actually suffer from addiction
Mm.
and they can go the whole 9 yards. They can actually go do the recovery and recover well. And then they can hit 5 years sober. They can hit 10 years sober. And then you hit year 15, they relapse.
Yep.
When they relapse, they got to start all over again. And they got to go through this course again. What would you say to those people that actually relapsed and had to work again for what they already worked hard doing? What would you say to them?
I think one is not to feel ashamed or guilty.
Hmm.
Sometimes one thing happens in our life, and then our worry, our anxiety about it, our shame and fear about it creates even more of an obstacle. And so, to keep moving forward and not get hung up on a failure, on a mistake, but, just to keep moving.
Yeah, because I've seen there's people that I've brought on that talked about addiction and
Mm,
how they worked so hard. Ooh, excuse me, they hit about 10 years, sober, clean, however whatever from addiction and relapse. And
yep.
one guest came on and told me that they relapsed 8 times and had to do it again 8 times. And it was it was crazy to hear, but that is part of being human.
Yeah.
And like you can't really, I'm not going to say put yourself at fault, but the mind takes over on how a lot of people would relapse.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a good thought because our minds do think about temptation. That's
Yeah.
why it exists. They really do exist. And it's up to you to determine how you're going to either be consistent when you're disciplined, or it could be up to you to actually see not your failures, but see what the relapse did to you and learn from it.
Yes.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I've
Mm,
seen people in and out come due, and they you know, actually hit that point of, hey, I'm not going to go back to that again after they then hit rock bottom so many times. And it's
yep.
the hardest thing to do. It's just to recover. It's the hardest thing. People think it's
Yeah.
the easiest cake in the world, and it's not. It's not.
No, no, and because there's also a physiological element to it, where
Yes,
the body has become, addicted not just on a mental level, but also there's a physiological response. And that's where it's complicated, but these tools are so needed, I think, for
for
healing,
sure.
for recovery, because we're not dealing with something that's just on the level of a thought or just the mind, um, from what I've seen in the research I've read.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I got a couple more questions here. I want to ask you
Sure.
about your campaign. Um, what inspired you to do your campaign?
Which campaign?
I think it's was it the Dry January
Oh,
mindful
yeah, yeah,
edition?
the dry January. Yes.
Yeah, that one. What made you do that? What
That
inspired
was
you?
a fun one because it's a really exciting social media trend. Sometimes we can look
Yeah.
at social media and feel very exasperated. I do, at least. But although other times there's exciting, good stuff happening. And so I looked back the last few years, this trend of dry January is on the rise. So
Sure.
more and more people are participating every year, especially amongst millennials and Gen Z. We see the strongest participation. And I thought, okay, here's something that's good that's happening. At the same time, people may not have tools to really take it further. Like, okay, I want to do dry January, but then what do I do? You know, what do I do with my time? How do I socialize?
Yeah,
And so we decided to make a month-long challenge where we provided support, ideas, creative projects, everything from fun mocktail recipes to meditation sessions to little mindfulness trainings and some breath work about how not to just cut out something that they might feel is draining their energy or just not as life supporting, but how
hmm
to add something on. Sometimes
yeah,
people also feel like, oh, dry January, I'm cutting this out, like it feels no fun. Like, no, no, we're also going to add something in that's even more energizing, that's better, that's juicier. And so that was the origin of it. Me and a couple of friends got together and just made it a challenge.
That's an interesting one. Why is replacing a habit more effective than actually uh removing it?
Yeah. It's one thing to remove a habit, super helpful. You're
Oh
not
yeah.
dissing that at all. And it goes back to energy
Hmm.
because bad habits can drain our energy. Anything that drains our energy, I would call a bad habit. At the same time, other habits can lift our energy.
Oh yeah,
It
for
goes
sure.
back to our conversation about the mind. It isn't just
Hmm.
thinking ourselves out of a funk, out of a negative thought pattern, but
Hmm.
often it's actually lifting our energy levels that does the difference. So adding on a good habit like a bit of breath work each day, 5-10 minutes, maybe some yoga, a few minutes meditation, all these things lift our energy so that we don't have to try so hard to get out of negative thinking. Because it's
Yeah.
almost like, buttering the pan. When you butter the pan, those negative thoughts aren't going to stick too much. So when we lift our energy, it's like buttering the pan of our mind. Like, okay, stuff comes, I'm not going to get so stressed about it. Because the
Right.
stress can also lead us into the habits again. So it's another piece in breaking that cycle, like a virtuous cycle.
For sure. For sure. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up. I always ask my guests this last question before we go.
I'm
So
curious
when
now.
you
Okay.
yeah, so when you hear the words breaking mental health, what does that mean to you?
My first reaction is like breaking the stigma of mental
There you
health,
go. Yes.
right? Like we've got the stigma attached to it. How do we break through to the other side where we're not just talking about it, but we're really thriving and feeling well from top to bottom, from body to mind to spirit? That really feels like unleashing and breaking mental health.
I like that. I like that. And when that comes from me, when I hear breaking mental health,
Yeah.
I always hear it like this. Start small, very small,
Mm.
right? So it's all about listening. And if you actually take time to listen, that's where awareness can come up. You start with the smallest of smallest. You struggling with something, you find the root, right? You find the
Yep.
deepest root. If it's small, very small, do it. Say it. Speak on it. Because
Yep.
very small things can actually grow to a bigger root plot. So if you do that, that's where you start bringing in more awareness about things that people would have never known or imagined, especially in a small space like that, in a small thought, very small thoughts. So if you listen to what people are saying, what they're talking about, what they're struggling with, the stuff like that, that's how I feel like breaking mental health is, you know, about. It's just small and listening.
Yep.
That's important to me. That's important to me.
And our life is made of small moments.
Yes.
We piece them
Yes.
together, we get this much larger thing. I love that. Start small.
Yeah. You gotta start small because if you start small, you can always find that bigger issues
Yeah.
because people may not know. That's why I do this podcast. It's important. Start small.
Start small and think big.
There you go. There you go. Well, Andrew, it was a wonderful conversation. And I
Likewise,
appreciate
Daryl.
you coming out, man. I appreciate you coming out. Thank you
Nice.
so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.